Hey there guys, I want to do a few videos on this millennial math that your children are coming home with. As an elementary teacher, I hear some parents' concerns with the Common Core math that they just don't know how to do. That's not the way that they were taught. I don't know how to help my kids. So hopefully these next few videos can help you with that. The first video we're going to talk about adding three-digit numbers. So as a teacher, I think sometimes we fail, and I'm including myself in this. I think we fail sometimes in communicating that with the parents, that we're going to teach your child 3 different ways or 4 different ways to add three-digit numbers. According to Common Core, it's 3 different strategies. But your child doesn't have to do all 3 of those. The goal is for them to figure out which one is more comfortable for them, or which one is easier for them, or the one that they just kind of understand or they kind of get. And that's the way your child should add these 3-digit numbers. I mean, everybody's brain's different. We all add numbers differently in our brain, and sometimes a lot of this is mental math that they can do in their head. And hey, count on your fingers, whatever you have to do. But again, I just think as teachers, we kind of fail you guys in that, where we don't really communicate that this is one strategy I'm going to teach to your child to add 3-digit numbers. For example, when I'm adding 12 plus 7, I just can't add 12 plus 7. My brain says 10 and 7 and 2. So I would add the 7 and the 2 first, and have 9, and then I know there's a 10 over there. So basically what I did was I broke apart 12 and made it 10 and 2, and then added the 7 and the 2, and then added the 10 back to it. So that's how my brain works. And I know students can, if you're giving your child, or you give your child 2 numbers and say add them, or items and say add them, some kids are not going to add them the same. So it's just kind of however their brain figures it out. So the first strategy that I'm going to show you, and this is one of the first strategies that second graders learn how to add 3-digit numbers. This is one of the first strategies. It's called breaking apart the add-ins. Okay, so it's going to look a little something like this. This looks familiar because this is the way that us parents, learn how to add. But your child is asked to break apart the add-ins. And you'll notice the 3 lines beside the 425 and the 3 lines beside the 232. So basically what they're asked to do is they're asked to break apart that number. And when you break apart a number, you break apart the number according to its place value, the 1s, the 10s, and the 100s. So if I was to break apart 425, it would be 420 and 5, just like that. So now that we know how to do that, break apart 425, we know how to break apart 232. Okay, so that's what 232 would be. So this is breaking apart the add-in. So your child would be given this part over here, and they'll also be given these lines at first, so they can break apart these numbers into the different place values. And then, just like they're taught to do math from left to right, which is the opposite way that we read, they'll add the 1s, the 10s, and then 100s. So then it would look something like this: 7, and then 50, and then 600. And then your child would know that this is 657. They would read it, 657, and ultimately know that that is that 3-digit number, 657. Okay? Let's do another one really quickly, because there's another one that's going to require some regrouping. And again, this is one of the first ways your child learns how to add 3-digit numbers. So the next one we're going to do is going to be 849 and 123. Okay? So when you have these two numbers, 849 plus 123, break apart the number first to 849 and then 123. So of course, when you see the 9 and the 3 over there at the end, you know that that's not going to be a one-digit number. It's actually going to be a two-digit number, and that's okay. They're going to have to learn how to regroup, okay, to put it in another group, to combine numbers. And let me show you how to do that. So that's going to come to 12. This will be 60. And of course, this will be 900. So when they read it, 960, 12, well, that's a weird number. They immediately recognize that the 12 can't be there in the at the end of that number. It can't be there. So they're going to have to regroup, and they're going to have to combine the 60 and the 12. And then they would get 900, and then they'd have 72. Okay? And then ultimately they would combine it to make 972. Okay? This is, again, breaking apart the add-ins. Eventually, what would happen would these blanks and the plus marks would go away, and your child would basically have to kind of write it themselves. But they would do several lessons on this, maybe spend a day or two on this, just breaking apart the number and adding it straight down, you know, the ones, straight down the tens, and then straight down the 100s column, and reading the number at the bottom, okay? So that was breaking apart add-ins, breaking apart a number. The next strategy that your child would probably come home with is gonna look a little something like this, okay? And this is called addition with regrouping, okay? So it's all on their paper. They would see that the hundreds and the tens and the ones, they're separated by columns, and it's got this cute little box up here, so you know that, you know, more than likely you're going to have to regroup or carry a 1 or carry a 2. You know, that's kind of how the lingo that we use when we were growing up, and that's how we learn. But we don't use carry the 1 and carry the 2. They call it regrouping now. So when you hear that word regrouping, really it's just carrying that 10, you know, over to the other side, okay? So with this one, of course, you would, this would be the lesson after the one that I just showed you, after the breaking apart. Now that they know how to break apart, we're going to work a little bit more on adding from top to bottom, and, you know, as this is right here, okay? So this would kind of be that carrying the 1 thing. You know, you would put your 2 right here, because of course we know 5 plus 7 is 12. And then when you add this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that would give you 9, and then that would be 4, okay? Another thing they would like to encourage the students to do is to, you know, add with doubles. I know 7 and 7 is 14, but then, you know, 2 less than 14 would be 12. I know that sounds like a lot, kind of sounds a little confusing, but they do really stress knowing doubles, 7 plus 7, 6 plus 6, 5 plus 5, things like that. So then when they see things like this, 5 and 1 is 6, or 7 plus 5, they can think of those doubles and maybe take off 2. That's just how my brain works too. I actually see this as a double, and then 2 less than what the 7 plus 7 double is. You know, it's kind of crazy, but that's kind of how I see it too. And then there's the good old-fashioned way. Add with your fingers, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you know, just whichever is easier, honestly, okay? So there's that example. Let's do one more with this one, with the regrouping and lining them up in these columns like they're doing. The next one could look something like this, 764 plus 153. Of course, we don't have to regroup or carry a 1 for this one right here. That would simply just be 7. Here again, there's the kind of information I was telling you about the double. I see 6 plus 6 is 12, but that's 6 plus 5, so it's 1 less. So what's 1 less than 12? That would be 11. And then here, there should be a box right here, would be where you carried your 1 or you regrouped. because this one and this one makes 11. And this is in the, in the 10 spot. So you would bring your 1 down, carry your 1 over here, and then of course you would add that, and that would be 917, okay? So eventually your students will not have these hundreds up here. I'm going to show you that too. Wouldn't have the word 100 up there. They wouldn't have your boxes where you can carry. They would only have the lines, like something like this, okay? And then your student might see something like this, 224 plus 157, and it would look more like this. So again, it's a progression, just like the original breaking apart the number that I showed you first. The first example was a progression where they learned that first. And then they have the words hundreds and tens and ones up there. They have the boxes where they can carry their 1 or regroup is what they're being taught. That's the word they're being taught. So then after they kind of get used to that, this is the same way, but they've taken away the words, they've taken away the boxes, and they're simply just asked to add down the columns, okay? So with this one, 7 plus 4 we know is going to be 11, and they would have to kind of manually or on their own regroup or carry that 1, okay? And then of course this would be 8, and this right here, since we don't have to carry anything, would just be a 3. So 381. And then eventually, again, I said it's a progression. Eventually your columns are going to go away. You're just going to have that plus sign to show them the operation that they're supposed to do. And then this is going to look a little bit more like what we are familiar with as parents. We're familiar with this. If it helps to draw the boxes for your child, draw the boxes. If it helps to put the H or the T or the O or over the hundreds, tens, and ones, draw your lines. Whatever. Again, this is however your child learns best, however they solve the problem best. If they need that, let them do it. It's okay. If they're counting on their fingers, let them do it. That's okay. But this is also gives them the opportunity, remember, when we broke apart the add-ins, to break that number down to 130 and 2, 250 and 8. So now that they kind of get to what's called, like the bones of the problem, they can really pick the strategy that works best for them. If they want to do the break apart, or they want to draw or write the word hundreds, tens, and ones at the top and draw their regrouping boxes. Or maybe some students just want to draw the lines. And ultimately, those lines are really going to help them when they're multiplying and dividing, because multiplication and division, well, subtraction and addition too, and any operation of math, it is so important that you line up your numbers, all the tens, all the ones, all the 100s. So those lines are really going to help them see that these numbers have to be lined up or you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, the very last thing, or the very last strategy or problem, I guess, that your child might see would be when they got something like this. And it's written just simply from right to left. This is an opportunity for them to write it from top to bottom, to break apart their add-ins if they want to do it that way, to write hundreds or tens or ones on top and line them up, draw their lines, draw their boxes, whatever they need to do in order to help them. But just be sure and read the directions, because the lesson might be working on a specific strategy, and if you're still not sure how to do it, just that open communication with the teacher, write a note, a nice note. Hey, I really sat down with, my child last night. I couldn't help him. I couldn't figure it out. He was having a hard time explaining to me how to do it. Can you send home some kind of like study guide or or example explanation. And I'm sure I know the teachers will work with you with that. If you really attempted and made that effort, because at the end of the day, bedtimes don't excuse me, bedtimes don't need to be ruined, and dinners don't need to be ruined, and homework just shouldn't seem hopeless. I mean, we're here to help you. So write your teacher a note if you don't understand it. But I hope these few examples helped. I'm going to do a few more videos later this week about some more millennial math, some third grade multiplication tricks. I know multiplication is a foundation of a lot of math, and so hopefully I can show you a few multiplication tricks and the ways that they're learning how to multiply that really wasn't the way that we learned. So when they kind of do it a different way, at least you'll be able to understand it, okay? So I hope you guys learned a little bit from the video, and just stay tuned for some more millennial math, also known as Common Core. But hopefully these videos will be able to help you and help your child better when y'all are at home doing homework together, okay? Bye, guys.